was ready for like 6 months for that with our age, and it's a continual struggle. We end up having more money than we do in years now.
We just had so much success with the fans.
I'm happy. Bring the idea up, like you were saying, just get one.
Well, the person enthusiastic.
I'd like to welcome everybody to this workshop in Pride in Our Fellowship. My name is Bo, and I'm an addict. Hey, everybody. We'll open with a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Serenity Prayer. Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, can somebody come up here and read Who is an Addict, please? You can read from either. Read from here.
Hi, I'm Scott, and I'm an addict.
Hey, Scott.
Most of us do not have to think twice about this question. We know. Our whole life and thinking is centered in drugs in one form or another, the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. We use to live and live to use. Very simply, an addict is a man or a woman whose life is controlled by drugs. We are people in the grip of a continuing and progressive illness whose ends are always the same: jails, institutions, and death.
Thank you. Okay, would you come up and read What is NA, please? Thank you.
How far? Just this? How far?
Just that far.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee, and I'm an addict.
Yeah, Judy?
NA is a non-profit fellowship of society of men and women for whom drugs had become a major problem. We are recovered addicts who meet regularly to help each other stay clean. This is a program of complete abstinence from all drugs. There is only one requirement for membership: the honest desire to stop using. There are no musts in NA, but we suggest that you keep an open mind and give yourself a break. Our program is a set of principles, written so simply that we can follow them in our daily lives. The most important thing about them is that they work. There are no strings attached to NA. We are not affiliated with any other organizations. We have no leaders, no initiation fees or dues, no pledges to sign, no promises to make to anyone. We are not connected with any political, religious, or law enforcement groups. We are under no surveillance at any time. Anyone may join us regardless of age, race, color, creed, religion, or lack of religion. We are not interested in what or how much you used or who your connections were, what you have done in the past, how much or how little you have, but only in what you want to do about your problem and how we can help. The newcomer is the most important person at any meeting because we can only keep what we have by giving it away. We have learned from our group experience that those who keep coming to our meetings regularly stay clean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, would you be good enough to come up and read how it works for us, please?
I'm Sandra, and I'm a recovering addict and alcoholic. If you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. These are suggested only, but they are the principles that make our recovery possible. 1, we admitted we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, We may direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. We continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. This sounds like a big order, and we can't do it all at once. We didn't become addicted in one day, so remember, easy does it. There is one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. Although there are no must in NA, there are 3 things that seem indispensable. These are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to try. With these, we are well on our way. We feel that our approach to the problem of addiction is completely realistic, for the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. We feel that our way is practical, for one addict can best understand the help another addict. We believe that the sooner we face our problem within our society and everyday living, just that much faster do we become acceptable, responsible, and productive members of that society. The only way to keep from getting or continuing a habit is not to take that first fix, pill, or drink. If you are like us and know that 1 is too many and 1,000 never enough, we put great emphasis on this, for we know that we use drugs in any form or substance for one another. We release our addiction all over again or create a new one. The substitution of alcohol has caused a great many addicts to form a new addiction pattern, which in its progression brings as many problems as before. We seem to forget that alcohol is one of the oldest known drugs. It would appear that we are people with addictive personalities who are strongly susceptible to alcoholic addiction.
Thank you so much.
And the hut.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandra. And who wants to read our 12 traditions today? There you go.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Rick, and I'm an addict.
Hey, Rick.
Here's 12 traditions of Narcotics Anonymous. We keep what we have only with vigilance, and just as freedom for the individual comes from the 12 steps, so freedom for the groups springs from our traditions. But as long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. First, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they don't govern. 3, the only requirement for membership is the desire to stop using. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or NA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict that still suffers. 6, an NA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every NA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Narcotics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, NA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, NA has no opinion on outside issues, hence the NA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Is that it?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, I don't feel like I've messed up, but I've sort of departed from the written format, which says that I'm supposed to introduce him or herself and introduce readers, but since we are small, we can afford to be a little informal. And I'd like to address item 5 on this workshop format, which says that our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. Absolutely no pictures may be taken. I'm sure y'all understand that's to protect members of our fellowship and our principle of anonymity. And so I'll introduce myself a little bit. My name's Bo, and I'm an addict. Hey, everybody. It's real good to be here. And I have felt funny ever since I saw the topic of this workshop, because there's a tape from, I think, the 20th anniversary of our fellowship as we know it, in which former chairperson of the Board of Trustees said quite a bit about pride in our fellowship. And he said, I know pride comes before a fall, but in this case, I'm very proud of you. And he made some jokes. You know, he said that he had helped everybody so much and gotten them clean, and it gave him a right to be proud. Look at you people. And but I'm thinking of it from a very different angle today, because when I got here, I had been born and raised in Georgia, you know, educated to some extent. I had been married several times. I had pretty much started using by making my own homebrew when I was 14, 15 years old, just simple sugar and water and raisin combination. Nature took its course and I got fucked up. And, you know, I became increasingly aware of chemical alternatives over the next, I guess, really 10 years from that point. And, you know, never particularly thought I was a problem. I was drawn to the coffee houses and the conversations, and I seemed to have an abnormal number and intensity of questions. And, you know, somehow using people and using scenes made me feel right at home. And I've tried to avoid harder forms of dope and needles and all that shit unsuccessfully. And probably after I'd burn out, after I'd become allergic to LSD and immune to crystal methadone, I mean, I could have shot enough to kill me, but I was so used to being high that I didn't experience any change between before I injected crystal methadone and after. Somebody came by to give me some opium one night and said, "This is opium." I said, "Great, I've never seen that. Here, you want to smoke some?" I tried smoking some, and I said, "Well, thanks a lot." And he says, "Well, what, you didn't feel it?" I said, No, I'm sure it's good stuff, no problem." So he gave me some more. I smoked up all this fucking opium, and I never felt it. But I forgot that I'd been shooting as much crystal as I wanted to for 3 or 4 weeks. And so to get me down, I'd have probably died, you know, but we went into an incredible speedball. But anyway, some friends had already died, you know, from heroin and a few other things, and it sort of soured me on the scene, being the sensitive individual that I am. And, you know, I'd gotten into, you know, like we beat up one guy one night because he had ripped off some weed, you know, and I woke up the next day, tied him up to the post in the basement, and I thought, how in the hell did I get into this shit, you know? Where's the peace and love go? So back when I was with the Beatniks in my late teens, I read a book called The Beats, and it mentioned in one line just the 2 words Narcotics Anonymous. And so, even though I was 18 at the time, I remember that when I was, say, 25, 26 years old, maybe close to 27, I picked up a telephone in Atlanta and dialed 411 and asked for Narcotics Anonymous. And they said, I'm sorry, there's no listing. So I immediately called Alcoholics Anonymous and I said, I want to get in touch. I want to find out if there's any Narcotics Anonymous around here. Can you help me? Well, no, but we may have some members that don't know about that. I'll have somebody call you. So through a weird series of events and a few meetings, I finally got, one copy of our Forerunner to the little white booklet, or that had a green cover on it. So it wasn't even a white booklet, but the contents were very similar. Not to the modern form, but it came out of San Francisco. And we held 5 or 6 meetings, and there wasn't much to go on, and the meeting failed. And, eventually I went back to use some various things, and even though I was almost infirm, that thing with speed freaks where you get senile at 15 and shit like that, that's how I was. And it was that way, so it was so scary I didn't even think about it at the time, and couldn't afford to. To me, denial is a practical thing if you haven't got a positive alternative. And then, when I was 29, coming up on 30, then that's when I found the positive alternative. I no longer needed my denial. And I went to meetings for a while and felt like, it'd be nice if this was all true. It'd be nice if this worked. So I just kept coming back because I thought it'd be nice. And I really did not have anything else to do that I was interested in. I didn't want to get laid. I didn't want to go to a movie. I was just sitting around the house bored to tears. And the meetings were a very positive alternative for me. And I think I probably first came to believe a little bit in the power of this program watching these newcomers at this one hospital meeting kind of gradually snapping out of the fog, And I'd see them once a week, the first week they'd like that, and the second week they'd be sitting up looking around blinking, and the third week they'd be almost smiling, And the fourth week they'd be telling me about the 12 steps. So I thought, well, this is, I can see something happening here, and I know I hadn't seen it happening anywhere else, and it feels good. But I guess, I did a lot to, sincerely convince everybody I could within reach of my intense desire and need for help, complete with covering up any native abilities, any time at college, and because I didn't know where I was hurting, I didn't know what parts were missing. I had really sought vigorously, to grow along spiritual lines for a long time. I'd, had a lot of beautiful dreams that had come crashing down on me. And I figured, and I'd been involved with some pretty big deals before, like nonprofit work on the Strip and 6 o'clock news at all 3 stations anytime I wanted them. And I knew I'd been well acquainted with that nonprofit work, that there was no hope for addict-seeking recovery, none whatsoever at all anywhere. And that was a very depressing fact in my life until I found Narcotics Anonymous. So the thing that helped me probably work my steps those first 3 years clean was just the lack of, there weren't many NA members around. And I did have to do what I could to draw strength elsewhere, but the main thing that helped me was the fear or the feeling that the disease of addiction was one step behind me and I'd better keep one step ahead. And if I slowed down and got the least bit complacent or like I won't go to a meeting tonight, it's like I could feel this thing breathing right behind me and the breath got louder. And and I'd get with newcomers and talk about 12 steps, and I'd get relief and feel better, and I kept doing that, and I didn't understand or know how it works or if this is what they meant, but I was just doing it because it worked. And, I got chased that way from step to step. Every time I'd slow down, I'd move on to the next one out of desperation. And I really tried not to move on too quickly, though, because I saw and heard what happened when you work the 12 steps like it's a graduate program. And I didn't want what that path had to offer. So, and like I mentioned before, I'd gone to Theosophical, I'd been baptized Methodist, I'd gotten to picking up cigarette butts at the Baptist church and wound up getting saved. And then I got my family, to Episcopalian. Then I was real interested in Eastern religions. And after I quit shooting dope, I went to synagogue for 2 years. So, but it never really made sense to me. It didn't change my life too much, and maybe it kept me alive somehow. But it relates to this topic, and then I'd like to sort of go into a discussion. And this is, you're probably hearing the shortest form of my story ever told. But anyway, that's, it's appropriate. It said the speaker introduces him herself. So it's like what I had learned, what had been just, the result of aching desire, and I held in my head as kind of raw data. I suddenly saw life breathed into. I suddenly saw self-sacrifice mean something. Suddenly humility took on a different meaning, more like real honesty. Suddenly surrender was a way of winning. Suddenly care and help and concern for others was the thing to do and appropriate. And really praying and feeling the immediate results in a way that I could be comfortable with was something new from Narcotics Anonymous. And every newcomer comes here with their preconceptions, and all their knowledge comes from the using time. So it takes a while, I figure, for most folks to reevaluate things and kind of get used to the clean life. And my particular addition to that was I mistakenly, or as far as I'm concerned, mistakenly assumed that everything had been done in Narcotics Anonymous. It had been started in '53, therefore enough time had elapsed to where all the basic things were done, and all we had to do was stay clean and work our programs and help others. That really wasn't the case at all. And I got clean in '74. And I've known a lot of people who've gotten to play a lot of roles in the last few years because we're really tired of dying, and if it takes doing something, we'll find out what it is and do it for ourselves or for our people. And I sort of went looking for, beyond the bounds of my local community, for other NA areas and members and meetings and so forth to see what they were doing, what we could learn from them and apply to our own needs. And that road eventually led me to California. I attended the 7th World Convention there. This is my 8th World Convention in a row. And it's kind of interesting because I did get to meet some of the founders there pretty quickly. But I started picking up on something called the Greater NA, and I didn't have words for it for years. And we do have a lot of fine men and women here, there, and yonder, and some of them have fancy service titles. But from about 3 years clean, I started realizing that the real heroes of Narcotics Anonymous, which I had deliberately, consciously gone looking for, were the newcomers staying clean a day at a time that had no particular good reason to believe in us or anything else, because their courage is the maximum act of courage. And also the people that open the meeting every night, because without those two, we'd all be dead. And stop looking for heroes, yeah. And I was like, well, it freed me of an illusion too, you see, and it allowed me to, this is my program, and I'll do what I can to help. And I'd never been able to successfully feel good about something and do my part, whatever it may be, before in my life. I'd always been on the outside looking in. I'd been early or late for everything good in my life. And I saw you people translate spiritual ideas and notions and raw data into real living, breathing realities. And it was dumbfounding to me. I'm sure I was quite awkward about sharing it. That awkwardness probably extends through this moment. But I was at that 10th chapter meeting yesterday, and I was doing okay. I was a little tired, but so different speakers reading different paragraphs in a row, and finally one of the paragraphs you read it, and I just started crying. And so the topic, pride in our fellowship, is not the kind of pride I think that's going to get me loaded. it's getting to see, you know, God in you people. And God ain't out there some damn place, you know. It's in you, and I get to see it come out. It gives me a thrill every time. And I like that thrill. And I don't like the dying times. So who's going to share first?
How many minutes? I'm Gary, I'm an addict.
That's the conscience.
Hi, family. Pride in our fellowship. You know, it's real neat to come to a meeting and listen to the speaker talking about what it was like 10 years ago and know what he's talking about. You know, that's why I'm here. One other reason, Bo happens to be my sponsor, and I need to talk to him, and we shared. As one of the motivating reasons that got me off my ass to come. I couldn't bring the family or anything like that. You know, and one thing I always think, what am I going to say after I say my name, right? And every time I talk, I think about a particular night in my life that is instrumental in me being here as a member of Narcotics Anonymous, clean, free. And that's the night my brother overdosed. And he was 23, a year and 9 months older than me. And I really believe I was a whole lot worse off than he did. He just made the decision to take a whole bunch of stuff one night because he didn't want to live that way anymore. And he wrote a little note to my mom and my sister and my brother. He wrote me a little note. He told me that I had it in me to go find some help. So I didn't try to find any help right off the bat, you see. About 3 weeks later, I overdosed. I ended up in a hospital and got my stomach pumped and all that, you know. My dad come and got me and took me to this hospital, and they wanted me to sign in and commit myself, and I said, I'm not going to do it. Then I went to another place, and they wanted to know my story, what drugs I'd done, so I sat there 3 hours and told them, you know, named them off, and had to, urine test and all that. Come back next week, take another, that was the program I found, prove you clean each week, because I was on probation. They knew I had a problem and told me I better clean it up. About 6 months later, I don't know how I found Narcotics Anonymous. I was going to other meetings at other fellowships, a drug abuse program, because I could relate to the kids there, because, they were, 15 and 16, and I felt right at home, because that's where I was emotionally, They didn't have any responsibilities, and I didn't have any, so I related, I was in the right place. But somebody told me that something about a hospital downtown that had meetings, or had a meeting, for people like me. And I don't know if them were exact words, but anyway, I ended up in this little meeting on Wednesday night at St. Joe's Hospital in Houston in 1973. And I couldn't hear what I couldn't hear for a year and a half. I used. I guess because I didn't really have the desire to stop. But I heard keep coming back and them types of things, and in 1974, well, matter of fact, September 21st, 1974, I hit my bottom. And it was either do something or die. And the party had been over for a lot of years, and the decision had to be made, and that question and how it works, if you want what we have and willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. And I kicked, and about a week and a half later, I started making meetings again. That became my home group. I got a sponsor out of that group, and that sponsor taught me step one. Not 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Because it took him 10 years to make his first year, so he knew what I'd been going through the last year and a half. He had 3.5 years. I fell in love with Narcotics Anonymous, and I understand there wasn't a lot of people in NA. There was a lot of people in other things. And had that little meeting a week for a lot of years. And that was it. And I had other meetings I went out to and things like that. But I ain't saying this, out of ego, but I never left Narcotics Anonymous. But I can name a whole lot of people that did. And the reason I'm thinking about that is some of these people are coming back now after being gone 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. I mean, a couple dozen, It's really neat to see them back in the meetings. I didn't say I told you so, or, NA was the last house on the block. I forgot to mention that these places I went before NA told me it was okay to drink or okay to smoke dope or okay to eat pills as long as I didn't shoot no dope, and I believed them, and that was one reason I had trouble staying clean. But it's not just believing in the fellowship of NA. The pride is that I'm a member and I'm proud. I'm not anonymous. At any time on the airplane coming up, I talked to a guy and shared a little with him. There might be that one person sitting there next to me that might be an addict and might be going to score that last score. I don't know. So if I don't share, I'll never know. And there's been situations happen where I didn't have any idea this person needed help, and sure enough, they voiced I found out real fast that they needed it. But I ain't got nothing to take away from any other fellowship or anybody else. All I know is where my heart's at. And I've paid dearly for what I feel. I've been told that I was on a one-man crusade and that, I was wrong and I couldn't recover in NA. And I was told all kinds of things. But I knew better because, see, when I was told this, I had 6 years clean. In NA. So, I had a little I didn't have much open-mindedness at this particular time, but I had a lot of understanding. That's the way my higher power works. But this fellowship, to sit across the table from somebody from England, to look in the World Directory and see meetings in Tokyo, Japan, Hong Kong, China, Narcotics Anonymous meetings, that's the pride that I'm talking about. I'm proud that we've grown up. Yeah, we've been meeting since '53, but we haven't been truly a represented fellowship on the world level, but, for a short time, I feel. But I'm proud of NA. And my little mama that I used to threaten to cut her throat and shit, when she catch me fixing and start screaming at me, and I'd say, tell her shut her fucking mouth or I'd cut her throat. She's proud that I'm a member of NA today. And I go by and she fixes food and I sit down with my wife and baby and we eat food. When I leave, I hug her neck and kiss her on the cheek. And it used to not be that way. But that's the life that NA's given me. And, I don't have to be ashamed of being an addict, although sometimes I regret, that I wasn't a movie star, or exceptional musician, or, I see things on videos and, Michael Jackson, I wished I, had that act going for me, and I don't, I get upset, because I'm not perfect, or, because I'm a human being. But I'm not ashamed that I'm an addict, and I'm not ashamed that I'm a member of this program, because I don't have to be. I was told that. And I did have a lot of shame for a long time until I did a 4th and 5th, because I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed of my past, and it showed. And my sponsor knew it and knew how to deal with me, and I'm not ashamed of my past today, because that's what it is. It's past. But I'm really proud of NA. I'm proud of the people that Bo was talking about, the founders of this program. I'm proud of my sponsor, Bo. I'm proud of y'all. I'm proud of, of our book, and I tell people about it. I'm proud of our clubhouse that we have in Houston. I'm proud that we had the 8th World Convention in Houston. I'm proud that we won it back. We put a token bid in this morning. We're going to ask for it back. It's okay if we don't get it. We understand. I'm just proud to be a part of. That's what I've been talking about, trying to find something I wanted to say. I'm proud because I'm a part of life today. I'm a human being. I'm a person. I can feel. I can touch, smell, taste. I can hear what I need to hear today. And it wasn't always that way. And that's because NA cared. And there's, I think about my brother. I mentioned that, and I think about the people I know that have died because of drug addiction, And, all I have is a prayer. I don't know why and all that. All I know is that for some reason I was touched by a member of this program. And it scared me, not ever being able to get loaded again ever. I just, for a long time couldn't accept that. But today, I'll tell you what, I just lost a sponsor that I had 27 years. The one that taught me the principle of the steps, taught me how to change my life and learn how to date somebody instead of use somebody. And he's a real special man in my life, and he went clean and sober. And that's what my plans are, one day at a time. Because experience has been done by another sponsor also that died clean and sober. And these were old guys, and this was a long time ago. And I know it can be done, and nobody can tell me I can't, because I know we can together. Thank you.
Who's next? Come on.
I'm an addict. My name is Jeff.
Jeff.
I got to this fellowship through trying everything that I knew to keep that thing from chasing me, like Bo was talking about. I had a lot of the ideas that I had of how I was going to be cured of my addiction were not the ideas that I have about recovery today. I thought that someday I was going to wake up in the morning, and for a while I thought I'd outgrow it, that one day I'd wake up and I'd be old enough not to want to have to do it anymore, that the desire would just leave me. And I thought God would take it away if I went to church. I thought I'd go to a treatment center and they would tell me some magic words. They would unleash that locked-in evilness inside of me that wanted me to destroy myself, and then it'd be gone. And I sought that in the fourth and fifth step, I came into this fellowship. I went into a treatment center, and through that I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous. They sent me to some other meetings too, and I was so into my drug of choice that, and all I knew was that some drugs caused me to shoot dope, I'd have my mind all made up that I wasn't going to shoot any more dope anymore ever, and I would cash my check on Thursday nights at the bar and have 3 beers, and pretty soon I'd be figuring how I could pay half the gas bill and none of the rent, and I'd be off and gone after my drug of choice. And my drug of choice was my problem. It wasn't those 3 beers I had or anything else, And so when they sent me these other places, I would just see how they did it, and maybe I could apply it to myself. But when I got to the ANA meetings, I knew that's where I belonged. I mean, I knew it from the start. As soon as I saw the list on the wall, because they wrote it about me. And then when they talked about we are not under surveillance at any time, I like that, because I've been to jail 13 times, and I wondered how they guaranteed that, but I wasn't quite sure. At least they said it. And but I learned, and I worked these steps. They taught me in there that these steps were going to save my life, and I had worked through step 9 to the best of my ability by the time I had 40 days clean, and I'm not saying that I graduated, I had to go redo those steps, and there could be a lot of controversy about this, but I feel I can graduate through step 9, because that gets my past out of the way. What I do is I graduate into today, and that's what 10, 11, and 12 are about. That's how I work my program. I deal with today, and my conscious contact, the closer I get it, it takes care of 6 and 7, That's part of 11. When I'm wrong, you know, that's 8 and 9. I admit it. But that's, you know, my understanding. One thing that I attended Milwaukee with 50 Days Clean, the 12th convention, and I had not been able to attend a Narcotics Anonymous meeting in 3 weeks, and from the time I'd gotten out of treatment, because I went through treatment in one town and lived in another, and I didn't know it was okay to go 20 miles for recovery, and nobody told me that, you know. They told me, well, you better go over here, and I just sort of made myself fit in. And I got in this room, and I sat down, and there was like 50 addicts sharing about addiction and about, I don't even remember what topic it was about. It was at a marathon meeting, and I, you know, I'm not a person that cries, but sometimes I come real close, and that was one of the times, you know. And it was like coming home, you know. People had treated me nice everywhere I'd been, but you know, I was home. And I didn't realize till that moment how much I missed it. Sitting there was a guy. One thing, too, that I had a problem with is that, you know, I like drug logs. I love first step meetings, because that's where, you know, that's all I knew about. Like Bo said, you know, I knew about doing drugs. I didn't know about how to recover. And I used to listen to people, and nobody was worse than me, you know. At all these different places I went to, some people had done it longer, but nobody had done it more or got into more trouble than I'd heard. Till I went there, and then I met some people that, you know, that I was looking for, that were worse than me and recovered. And that's when I came to believe. Because, you know, I knew this might work for me, and I prayed to God that it could. But see, you weren't as bad as me, and maybe you could recover, but I couldn't, you know, until I got to a convention. And I sat in there, I stood in a circle of 600 people, and I remember they had roll call, and they said anybody with between 30 and 60 days to stand up, and I stood up, and I mean, they were giving me standing ovation. And you know, that's the first time I had real pride in the fellowship. And, you know, today I have pride, and see, I try not to have pride in myself, but I feel real comfortable with having pride in spiritual things. When we put on our first mini conference, and we had a podium participation in the end, and I seen people, you know, crying with gratitude, I had pride in our fellowship. When I take, you know, today there's a person with me. I took him to his first meeting, you know. Later he asked me to sponsor him, gave me that honor. You know, some people they sponsor pigeons and babies and this and that. And I have a problem with that, you know, and it's my problem. But, you know, I've learned more from this man, or as much as I have from my own sponsors. You know, to watch him grow through the steps. And you know, we become best of friends. You know, and it's somebody that has not saw recovery any place but Narcotics Anonymous. You know, never been, because some people, you know, they started seeking recovery from addiction through Narcotics Anonymous. Sought to have more than one meeting a week in Rockford. You know, now we got 6 days a week. You know, like 8 meetings, afternoon, evening, you know, and people can recover, you know, and that gives me pride in our fellowship, you know. When our book came out, and I read it, and I remember paying $4 for a bootleg copy somewhere, you know, and just damn near memorizing it. Going all the way to Cleveland, getting Xerox copies before I got the bootleg copy, you know, the thing that would look halfway like a book, you know. Did some crazy things, but you know, it was like we got a book, and that was pride in our fellowship, you know.